Museum of the Mighty 8th Air Force, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the Ploesti Raid operation, since the B-24 is of course the plane used during Operation Tidal Wave on August 1st, 1943. And Operation Tidal Wave is the mission, of course, to the Ploesti oil refineries in Churchill, met to discuss war strategy. Stalin was not able to attend this meeting due to the battlefront being still going on very strongly over in the Soviet Union and Russia. So he is not attending this conference, but Roosevelt and Churchill both, and everyone involved, agree that oil and fuel, the Germans, the Nazis, oil and fuel capabilities are absolutely an imperative target to hit and destroy with strategic bombing. They absolutely must cripple the German war machine, and that oil and fuel refineries are super, super important, because as I like to tell the 5th grade students that I take on tours all the time, that nothing runs, nothing modern, nothing mechanized basically runs without oil and gasoline. So very, very important to destroy those targets. And so Ploesti, Romania is going to produce roughly 35% of the access is liquid fuel, 60% of their fuel, crude oil. There are multiple oil refineries in the Ploesti, Romania area that need to be destroyed. It is not the first mission to Ploesti on August 1st, 1943. There is a mission in June of 1942. And unfortunately, Ploesti is not going to be the last mission on August 1st, 1943 to the Ploesti oil refineries. They will need to continue bombing missions to this target as the war progresses, and I'll get to that towards the end of my talk. Now, the Germans are very prepared. They know how important their oil refineries are to them and what a great target that they would be and how important to destroy, and so they have heavily fortified these targets. They have flak batteries, anti-aircraft guns spread throughout all of them, surrounding all of them throughout. They even have them hidden in rail cars and in fake buildings to make it seem as though there's not as many flak guns as there really are. They have 3 Luftwaffe fighter units placed within range of Ploesti, all because this is such an important target. Now, the 9th Air Force is actually going to be in charge of this August 1st, 1943 mission. A Major General Louis Brereton is commander of the 9th Air Force, and of course he's going to be involved in planning this mission. Brigadier General Uzel Ent is one of the main planners of this mission. Colonel Jacob Smart is going to assist General Ent, and it's actually his idea to utilize the low-level bombing that they're going to employ as a tactic during this mission. Now, why low level? Because the analysis that they've done on what they need to destroy the Ploesti oil refineries is that they're going to need 1,400, so 1,400 bombers are going to be needed to really destroy this target. Well, this is, August of 1943. America just doesn't have that many bombers available. We're still, getting into gear. And so that number is just not possible to provide for this mission. And so to make this low-level mission a success, they're going to need to use less bombers. And so that's what this low-level flying is going to help with, is they'll be able to use less bombers because they will be able to, by being lower in the sky, they'll be able to evade German radar, hopefully. And they are going to be able to attack all the 7 separate refineries all at once. Now, they're going to use B-24 Liberators to do this mission, and the 9th Air Force is going to actually borrow 3 8th Air Force bomb groups for this mission. Sorry, it's just started to pour rain on us, and so if you hear a little, noise and echo, this is live and it's raining. It's actually pouring outside right now all of a sudden. So the 9th is going to borrow 3 bomb groups from the 8th Air Force. So we're going to move down to basically Benghazi, Libya, to help out and assist with this mission. The 44th Bomb Group, the 93rd Bomb Group, and the 389th Bomb Group. And then from the 9th Air Force, the 98th Bomb Group and the 376th Bomb Group are all going to participate. So there's going to be 5 bomb groups. Now for the mission details, as I stated, it's going to be low level. They're going to have strict radio silence so that the Germans cannot overhear them chattering or receive any messages, or there's going to be no fighter coverage also. They're going to use 178 B-24s. They're going to take off. There will be 1,700 plus men on board these planes, and it's going to be an approximately 2,400 mile long round trip mission. They're going to take off from Benghazi, Libya. They're going to fly over the Mediterranean and the Adriatic Seas, toward Albania, Yugoslavia, over the mountains, and into Romania. And that's kind of the general route that they're going to take. Unfortunately, it's over the mountains that they're going to start to have some problems. Now, during this mission, there's actually going to be 5 Medal of Honor recipients as a result of this mission, the most ever for an air raid. And I'm going to be talking about these 5 men throughout the rest of my talk. So I'm just going to kind of give you a little bit of background about each one of them right now. So we have Lieutenant Colonel Addison Baker. He's from Akron, Ohio. He earned his wings and his commission in 1931. He is the commander of the 93rd Bomb Group. He is going to be the pilot of the Hell's Wrench on this mission. He's going to be the lead plane in actually this kind of the second formation, the second group of this mission. The 376 will be more in front of the 93rd, and he is going to be a pilot. His co-pilot on this mission is Major John Gerstad, and he's from Racine, Wisconsin. He's completed more than 25 missions, and at this point in the war, it's 25 required missions. He's flown more than that. He's basically lost count. He's always stated about how many he'd flown. The plane he mostly flew for his missions was a B-24 named Jerk's Naturals. Jerk comes from his name, Gerstad, and the natural comes from the tail number of his plane, the serial number, which added up to 7 and 11, which is a natural in dice games. So that's where he got the plane name for that. He volunteered and signed on as an operations officer for the 93rd Bomb Group and the Ploesti Raid. And he's going to be the co-pilot of Hell's Wrench along with Lieutenant Colonel Addison Baker. Now with the 44th Bomb Group, there's going to be Colonel Leon Johnson. He is from Columbia, Missouri. He's a graduate of West Point in 1926. He's actually going to start in the regular army, the ground army, and then he's going to realize, in his opinion, there's more fun in the sky. So he's going to transfer to the Army Air Corps. He's going to be one of the first members of the 8th Air Force. He's not one of the original 7, but he is one of the first members of the 8th when he is the Assistant Chief of Staff. He's going to move over to England with the 8th in June of 42. And in January of 1943, he is named the commander of the 44th Bomb Group. And he is going to be the co-pilot of Susie Q with Major William Brandon as his pilot on the Ploesti August 1st raid. And they will be in the lead plane of the 44th Bomb Group. Lieutenant Lloyd, whose nickname was Pete Hughes, is from Texas. He went to Texas A&M and then enlisted as an aviation cadet on January 28th of 1942, which just so happens to be the birthday or the anniversary of the day the 8th Air Force was created here in Savannah, Georgia. He is with the 389th Bomb Group, 564th Squadron, excuse me, And he moved with it to England in June of 1943, and the August 1st Ploesti Raid will be his 5th mission. That's all. And he is the pilot of his B-24, so only his 5th mission. And then there is Colonel John Kane, and he's with the 9th Air Force, and he's the commander of the 98th Bomb Group. They're called the Pyramiders. He is the pilot of the plane that he will be flying on August 1st. Luftwaffe intelligence summaries dubbed him Killer Kane, so his nickname was Killer Kane. And he flew night missions. The night before the mission, this is what he told his flight crews in his bomb group. It would take an entire army a year to fight its way up here and smash this target. We are going to do it in a couple of minutes with less than 2,000 men. So he really does understand how important this target is. Colonel Kane graduated from Baylor University in 1928. He entered the military in June of 31. Then he ends up, leaves active service for the reserve, 34 and 35, and then returns to active duty in late 1935. And in July of 42, he ends up in the Middle East theater and flies 43 missions in Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. All right, and now back to the actual mission and what is happening with Ploesti. Now, this is, of course, a general overview. It is a very intense mission. There's a lot of information out there and a lot of amazing books on the Ploesti Raid that if you're looking for more information, please be sure to check out and purchase or get them from your local library. Now, the Ploesti mission is going to get off to a very uneventful start. All the planes are going to take off fine, successfully, without incident. All 5 bomb groups are going to start, get into formation and start heading out over, the Mediterranean and over the Adriatic, and that's kind of where things begin to fall apart a little bit. The lead pilot, the lead plane, is going to suddenly be flying erratically due to mechanical issues, and it's just going to abruptly crash into the ocean. And of course, the lead navigator is on that plane. The bomber stream is, of course, going to continue on. The formation is going to get a little bit more spread out because they're on radio silent, so they can't keep, talking and checking in to make sure that they stay nice and tight and close together. As they're climbing over the mountains, the Pindus Mountains, they're going to hit clouds. They're going to continue to spread out more. They're not going to be able to see each other as well because, of course, there's cloud cover. And this is going to start to throw off all the critical timing. But they're all 5 bomb groups are going to clear their first checkpoint. And then the 389th is going to turn off for their separate, for their target, which is one of the, of course, oil refineries. Everything's going to be fine with them. They're going to turn off correctly. But then when of course, that lead plane crashed, that's their lead navigator. And when the 376 gets to the target, what they believe is the initial point in the target area, they're going to turn at the wrong rail line. And that's where we're going to end up having problems because they're going to turn too soon and they're going to be heading towards Bucharest. And this is when the 2 lead pilots in the lead plane, Colonel Baker and Major Gerstad, are going to realize they're going the wrong direction. And they're, of course, going to try to warn and signal that we're going the wrong way, but they can't because they're on radio silence. And so they decide that even though technically this is disobeying orders, they break formation and start heading off towards the correct target. And their group does start to follow them towards the real target. Their radio silence is finally going to be broken. Compton and Ent are going to realize that there has been a mistake made and they're going to start changing course. But with all of this unplanned events happening. It's going to really throw the formation off and the attack plans, and everything's just going to be in disarray. And General Ent is going to finally break radio silence, and he's going to order the 2 bomb groups to bomb any target at will. So basically what, they can find any of these refineries around. So the part of the 93rd is going to be flying north towards Ploesti. Part is going to be flying kind of southwest towards the Columbia Aquila refinery, which was assigned to a different bomb group, and we'll get to that in a minute. Now the 93rd bombers are headed towards other American bombers, but luckily fate is really kind of with the Allies. They're going to realize this. The 93rd is coming in, the 44th is coming in, kind of perpendicular to each other, and they're going to see this. Baker and Jerstad are going to realize an airplane, Hell's Wrench, they're going to kind of veer, get out of the way. Their plane is on fire, there's flames, there's of course anti-aircraft all over the ground shooting up at everybody. There's the Hell's Wrench plane, Baker and Jerstad's plane with the 93rd Bomb Group is in flames, but they're going to maintain formation. They realize how important it is to get their group over the target. Baker's going to break formation to avoid a mid-air collision with the bombers from the 44th, and they're going to just keep going. He's going to gain altitude. He's going to try to gain altitude so that his crew will be able to successfully bail out and survive. But there's just too many flames. The plane is just too damaged, and unfortunately, the Hell's Wrench will crash and explode, and all 10 men on board will be killed. But during all this, of course, the 44th Bomb Group with Colonel Leon Johnson is heading in towards their target, which, by the way, produced 485,000 tons of petroleum products a year. They are going to be heading in towards the target, which has now already been hit. So, of course, the Germans know that they're there, they're coming. So the flak guns, everything is ready and being manned. And to quote Yank magazine, which put out an article, of course, after this mission, they said, an inferno of 1,500-foot flames and exploding time bombs. Without a moment's hesitation, Colonel Johnson heads his group into the inferno at 30 feet. So 30 feet. So those flames, everything is just right there at the, on the belly of the plane. Just as the flames lapped over his wings, a miracle happens. There is an explosion in the midst of the roaring mass, and an updraft opens a tunnel of air in the flames. Johnson and 6 planes shoot through the tunnel. They drop their bombs. The rear gunners see the following 6 planes head into the inferno. The flames close in. Only one comes out. Just gives you chills to think about it and how dangerous this was. Colonel Johnson's B-24 is burned jet black by the proximity to all of these flames. It's shot through several times with flak, but the plane and the crew survive and return to base. So Colonel Leon Johnson does survive. At his Medal of Honor ceremony on November 22nd, 1943, he stated, "I cannot consider this a personal award. I consider this a citation for the leader of the group, an acknowledgement of a job well done by the group." So he will survive. Then there is the 389th Bomb Group and Lieutenant Lloyd P. Hughes. His plane is severely damaged from enemy fire prior to reaching the target. He could have also made an emergency landing in grain fields, but he also continues to fly his crippled plane to the target area and make his bomb run. His wings are all aflame, and when he's attempting to make a forced landing after hitting the target, he's going to attempt to make an emergency landing, and unfortunately his plane will also explode, killing everyone on board, and unfortunately, Lieutenant Floyd Pete Hughes will also be killed during this mission, and then receive the Medal of Honor afterwards. Now, then there is Colonel Kane. Colonel Kane is going to lead his group through to the target, the 98th Bomb Group, to their target. He's also going to receive heavy amounts of flak. He is going to be, his plane is going to be hit. He is flying, and they will actually have to make an emergency landing, and his crew will also survive. And his story is his plane, you know, is riddled with damage and holes as well. He will also survive, and so it is, and of course receive the Medal of Honor. And he's of course in the 9th Air Force. Now, with this mission, the aftermath, the cost is extremely high. Of the 178 B-24s that fly this mission, only 33 return to base that are still in flying condition. More return, but they're not in flying condition. More than 500 American airmen lose their lives. Over 430 are injured. Altogether, 2,500 decorations are awarded to those who participate on the August 1st Ploesti Raid. There are 5 Medals of Honor, the largest number of medals of honor given for any single air mission during the war. They do not go back to Ploesti for more than a year, until the 15th Air Force is established in Italy, and that will be in April of 1944, and through August of 1944, when then the Soviet Army will move into Ploesti and put the refineries out of action for good, and by then Ploesti has been reduced to rubble. Now, some argue that Operation Tidal Wave, the Ploesti Raid on August 1st, was considered a failure from the American perspective. But if you look at it, that there is some argument that can be made that while the oil refiners were not put out of service for very long, they were put out of service temporarily. And during this delay in production, even though it's quite brief, this was during, you know, the German campaign against the Russians. So it did allow the Red Army, the Russian army, to take advantage of the lack of fuel for the panzers and launch 2 larger offensives to help liberate a few areas that the Germans had actually conquered and taken over during the war. So it doesn't take the Ploesti refineries out for long, but it does take them out for a period of time. And so today we just want to honor these 5 men, 4 from the 8th Air Force and 1 from the 9th Air Force, who received the Medal of Honor for this question. And we are going to, we're of course standing in front of our B-24 nose, but we do have an exhibit in the museum honoring, that is dedicated, of course, and showing the Ploesti Raid. So you're going to follow me that way as I walk backward, and really hope I don't run into things, because that did happen once. So follow me. This is our 2nd Air Division, the B-24 exhibit we're passing. And here is our Ploesti diorama. This is the diorama of the 44th Bomb Group. And this was made for us by an amazing group of modelers, showing, of course, the black burning smoke. Very, very well done, showing those B-24s on their mission. And so there we are. So Look for the video that we have on exhibit as well on the anniversary of Ploesti on Saturday, which is of course August 1st of 1943. This Saturday is August 1st, so we will have our on exhibit video available that morning for you to watch at your convenience. And I want to thank you for joining me here today. Next week we are going to talk about an honor. Well, he was Major Paul Tibbets when he was with the 8th Air Force, but Colonel Paul Tibbets, and we're going to talk about his role with the 8th Air Force next Thursday. So thank you very much for joining me, and stay safe, everyone.